Hey, it's Webs here, and it's time for a reckoning with Big Demon Hunter, which is one of two decks that Demon Hunter actually got support for. And to be honest, the reason why I really wanted to run this deck in the first place is because I have access to Vanndar, and I've been wanting to make a big Demon Hunter deck since Vanndar was released. And that was my main regret I had when I was choosing Drekthar over Vanndar during the pre-release. So the idea behind this deck is to use Vanndar as a way to discount all your high-cost demons in the deck, or to use cards like Sigil of Reckoning and carry a Fell Soul until you draw into your Vanndar, while also relying on some early game control tools that Demon Hunter has access to, such as I-Beam or your Immolation Auras, along with some of the additional draw power that you could actually run in this deck, and some token generation in the form of Sigil of Summoning or Flanking Maneuver. When it comes to mulligans, you usually want to keep Vanndar in your open hand, and no other minion, just for the fact that any minion that you keep in your open hand won't actually get discounted by Vanndar, and that's pretty bad. And if you can actually get Vanndar out as early as possible, that makes a lot of the higher cost minions in the deck a lot better. So the other cards you want to keep in your open hand really depend on the matchup. If you're in a more aggro based matchup with a bunch of minions, then you're going to want to keep stuff like Immolation Aura or I-Beam in your open hand, so you can just get rid of the minions altogether. Sigil of Summoning is probably the last card that you want to keep in your open hand in a matchup like that, just because it allows you to stall out against your opponent's minions, or if you're in a spell-based matchup, it lets you chip away with their HP. And speaking of more spell-based matchups, cards that you usually want to keep in your hand for those are cards that will draw you into more cards, just so you can get Vanndar out quicker, and thus get to your late game plan even quicker than before. Alright, time for a game against Warrior. Not a terrible starting hand, but I'm just going to keep the Immolation Aura and the Flanking Maneuver, just because the Flanking Maneuver should allow me to deal with the quest line reward whenever they play it. Drawing into a Illidari Inquisitor and Pit Commander is actually pretty bad here, but if I had to choose a demon to have in my opening hand, it would probably be Pit Commander anyways, just because you can get a Sigil of Reckoning off with it, and it's actually pretty good. So they are questline, that's not really a shock. I don't think I've seen any other warrior deck besides questline since the set has released, or even before it, to be honest. Good news is I think most of the pirates actually fall under the range of... No, they don't. I am completely wrong. Illidari Studies, interesting to see. The Spectral Sight is actually really cool here, just because that means we can draw into more cards. 2 Chaos Leeches. Okay. Not exactly what I needed, but it is what it is. Okay, a Sigil. Then we're going to coin out a Lich. Okay, a Harbor Scramp. It's actually decent enough. Drawing 2. Another Inquisitor. And a Tormentor, which I hate seeing as many big demons as we currently are, but oh well. This is just going to be one of those games where Vanndar has actually no use, isn't it? That's the problem with running a bunch of big demons. Sometimes you just run into a situation where you draw into them all. Well, at least we can heal up a little bit here. Sigil of Reckoning, that's actually a really good top deck. We should be fine HP wise unless they have a Captain or Mr. Smite. Alright, so they do get their questline reward down. Sigil gets Pit Commander out. Okay, so we do have more plays. And then we get a second Pit Commander, and then we'll just pass the turn, getting the third Pit Commander out. Good thing Warrior doesn't have any way to get through taunts, right? Alright, keep hitting yourself. Sucks that we're losing all these big demons, but as long as we still have at least 1 or 2 of their taunts up, we should be able to survive. That Vanndar is a little bit too late. I'm going to Flanking Strike, play the Vanndar, use my hero power to kill the taunt, and then kill the 3/4. Now this puts me under the range that they need for 2 of the cannon barrages to hit face, But I think this is the safest way to actually do it, just in case they do have Mistress Might. Okay. It's interesting to see people actually running that pirate a lot more than they used to. And we should just win here. Turns out Illidari Inquisitor is just stupidly strong. Alright, time for a game against Priest. Going to keep the Illidari Studies and the Sigil, drawing into Immolation Aura even though we just sent it away. I swear there's so many games where that shit happens and it isn't even funny at this point. The worst is when it's a tradable card and you keep drawing into the opposite tradable. That shit's really annoying. We're going to play down the Sigil. Okay, so we drew into a Faceless and another Sigil. Just going to play our Summoning Sigil. Oh shit, they're not priests, they're rogue. I'm curious if that's the correct way to actually play Purple Rogue. I really want to test that deck out, actually. Now that I have more spare time, then maybe I can. I'm gonna choose the weapon and then kill one of them here. Sure, I could have just waited and used Immolation Aura on them, but I wanted to kill one just because we have the 2/2s. And it does put them in perfect range for actually dying to the 2/2s. So if they decide to actually attack into both of them, then we should be fine. Second Faceless Manipulator, going to coin out a Sigil of Reckoning though, which should give us the Tainted Heart next turn, which also means we have a Faceless Manipulator to actually combo out with it, thus increase their mana of their spells by 4 instead of 2, which is pretty good. Behold, our 8/8 on turn 5. I'm going to play a Sigil, then copy. Oh shit, a stunner? I'm actually kind of curious. Oh no, we're actually going to get 2 stunners. I was going to say, I'm actually kind of curious what type of thief rogue they are, but I guess they're secret. Seems like an odd card to run if you don't necessarily have a guarantee that it's going to go off. I guess if you're running something like Dirty Tricks or Plagiarism or whatever. So we get to clear out their board here, but it is a Oasis Alley. I think that's honestly the dumbest looking of all the diamond cards. And the fact that it just doesn't generate a bunch of other diamond cards is kind of sad. Getting the original Curtis. Good thing it's immune. Going to break that. I should have honestly probably attacked first into the 2/1, but oh well. And it isn't like Rogue has any way to actually buff up all the totems, so I'm not really worried about that. It's just 4 slots on their board that they can't actually use. Costume Entertainer, that's a card that I wouldn't expect. I guess the idea is to keep yourself as a disguised class as long as humanly possible, and then pop off after that. But to be honest, if I had to choose between that card or something that generates me other cards, I'd rather have the card that generates me other cards in the deck. Unless they're also running that, I guess. But okay, what are we going to top deck? A Flanking Maneuver, actually really strong here. Sadly though, he does not die. And we do draw into a I-Beam, which is going to be 3 cost next turn, but oh well. Okay, so we need an Immolation Aura to nuke everything, and that's actually not a bad top deck either. I should have targeted the one that gives attack, just so it wouldn't do any damage. But what are the chances Rogue has a way to bounce us back again, right? Interesting. So the only card that they're going to generate off of that is a Oasis Ally. But we should be able to win the game as long as our Inquisitor doesn't get bounced back or killed. And they're 1 off of lethal. That sucks for them. Because this should be like 30-ish damage. Alright, time for a game against Shaman. Going to mulligan away the Forge Fiend just because it's useless here. Drawing into a Sigil of Summoning, which is actually a pretty good top deck. Keeping the Sigil of Reckoning though might have been a bit of an iffy choice, to be honest. drawing into a I-beam, which does nothing here. So we're just going to hero power here. Okay, so they're playing a cage match. That doesn't give us any information. I'm assuming it's probably free shaman, since most shaman is at this point. We're just going to use our sigil of summoning. So they have an auctioneer gavel, which draws them into another gavel. Going to I-beam one and then just let them deal with both of our 2/2s on their own. Okay, so maybe they're N'Zoth freeze? That's interesting. Is that a common trope that people are actually using? I guess N'Zoth is a pretty good battle cry to try to actually copy out, but I'm going to draw 2, get a sigil of summoning. Kinda sucks that we don't have any demons in our hand, but oh well. Interesting to see all the possible different combinations that you can do with free shaman. At the same time, it's getting really annoying to actually play against. Okay, drawing into a demon, which is really good, so we can actually just play the sigil. A Volnar. Oh no, this is not going to be fun. I mean, there's better battle cries they could actually copy in that deck, but at the same time, that's going to be annoying. Okay, so we do get a big demon here. Oh, we can actually get 2 big demons if we don't want to kill the Volnar this turn. But killing him this turn is going to save us a lot of headache in the future, even if we don't get to kill our own demon. Unless we immolate Aura, then we can. Going to kill the Akama. Alright, so our next spell is going to cost a bunch. But to be honest, I don't really care because we're just going to play it anyways to get rid of their minion. Multicaster. I'm still wondering if this is N'Zoth or if this is freeze. I think it's just free. Well, it couldn't be just freeze. It has to be N'Zoth with a little bit of freeze package in it. Want to see what we get here. Grabbing the I-beam. Going to see what demon we also get here. And we get a Illidari Inquisitor, which is pretty good. Because that means we can just deal with that and then swing into face for 7. You know, Illidari Inquisitor is one of those cards that keeps falling off of the meta radar and then it ends up going into some type of deck, and every time it does, I question how it isn't too strong for it to actually receive any type of nerf as it currently stands. Because there are a lot of games where you just win because you get some Illidari Inquisitors back to back to back. Well, that's not the worst card that we could get there. Too bad we don't actually run any weapons. We're going to hero power, which is a taunt, which sucks. Let's put down the Inquisitor. And I shouldn't have coined out here. I should have just did... Yeah, this is the correct play. Just because of the fact that I don't waste any mana, even by using my coin. Though I shouldn't have used it, because using the Chaos Leech with the coin would have been actually pretty good. But at the same time, you don't really need to do that. And I could have saved the coin for a later turn, which might have been better. A second devolving missiles. Okay, so they're probably going to choose heal and damage to me. Damage to me, okay. Oh, they're hoping to copy that, I guess. Okay, a second I-beam. A Pit Commander, that's actually really good as a top deck. We're going to attack for face. We're going to use our Chaos Leech there. I-beam on the Coward. Getting the last Illidari Commander out of the deck. Or Inquisitor. And then going in for lethal. Man, we're actually just missing lethal by 1. Which is kind of depressing. Okay, so they're copying the hero card. That's a cool idea to actually use that as a way to copy the hero. But at the same time, I don't know how useful it is. The bad news for them is that does not prevent me to actually OTK them next turn. I guess it's not OTK, but all I gotta do is hit face. But we're going to heal up a little bit to just BM, and then we win. Alright, now that we're through some games, let's discuss my final thoughts on the deck. So the deck actually performed pretty well overall, and it gave me a great excuse to use a bunch of new cards from the new Fractured and Alterac Valley, along with Vanndar, which is a card that I've been wanting to use since he was announced, and I made the wrong decision of choosing Vanndar over him. So it became clear to me using a card like Vanndar introduces a new problem to the deck, which is the fact that you can't run any low-cost minions. You have to run a bunch of low-cost survivability tools, and Demon Hunter has the unique capability of actually generating a bunch of tokens off of spells, which is where this deck actually succeeds in many ways. There definitely is a deck that counteracts this one and is basically doing the same idea but better, which is Big Priest. That deck has ways to regenerate their resources, but this one does not. You have very finite amount of resources, though a well-timed Faceless Manipulator can actually win you the game if it's targeting a Illidari Inquisitor or a Taint Heart Tormentor. Both of these, depending on which matchup, actually can make you win the game. Or if you copy a Pit Commander, that could also make you win the game, as long as your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with a bunch of big minions all at once. Then you usually will just win and overwhelm them before they actually have the chance to do anything. The card that I assumed before making this deck that would be the most awkward in it to actually use is Sigil of Reckoning, but to be honest, it actually came up quite a bit, and I'm shocked at how well it actually performed. Most of the targets you can actually get off of a Reckoning on turn 6 are just insane. There is not a single one of these big demons that you would not want to have off a Reckoning. Truth be told, the card that ended up being the most awkward to use is Immolation Aura, especially when you have Sigil of Summoning in the same deck. There were a lot of times where you would be able to play the Immolation Aura, but it would kill your 2/2s off of the Summoning, and you just didn't want to do that because either you were A, greedy, or B, you wanted to actually wipe out the board some other way. Overall, I would say the deck is probably pretty decent to play. Sure, it does have a glaring weakness, but some of the other meta-relevant threats that currently exist in the meta, such as Freeze Shaman, don't feel that terrible to actually play against this, just because Illidari Inquisitor will still attack even if it's frozen. And I had a lot of fun actually testing this deck out. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, bye bye.